Madden 21 is a great game. You know who said that? Nobody. Nobody has ever said that. Now, while Madden 21 was a pretty awful game on the PS4 and Xbox One, to say the least, the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series S and X have arrived, and although they are a bit late to the party, EA has finally released their next-gen version of Madden 21. Let's get the positives out of the way first. Unlike 2K, EA has given everyone who owns the current-gen version of Madden 21 a free next-gen upgrade, even if you only bought the base game. So in my situation, since I hate EA and would rather than give them any of my money, I was able to buy a used hard copy of the PS4 game on eBay, insert the disc into my PS5, and boom, it automatically installed the next-gen version of the game, and I didn't directly give EA a dime. Their dual entitlement service is great, especially compared to 2K, who makes you pay $70 for next-gen 2K21, even if you already paid $60 for the PS4 or Xbox One version. Now, once the game is installed and opened, the positives abruptly end. Remember when all the Madden simps were saying that Madden 21 on the PS4 and Xbox One had so few changes because EA had to be focusing all of their time on making the next-gen version of the game extra special?
So that was a lie.
This is not a next-gen experience. This is not even a new experience. This is a small update that would probably run on the PS4 and Xbox One. One of the main improvements games are supposed to have jumping to next-gen consoles is loading times. Both the Series X and PS5 used a ton of their marketing budget to promote this, yet Madden 21 doesn't take advantage of this at all. Simulating through franchise mode, which is identical to last gen by the way, takes forever. I tried simulating 10 years, and after about 45 minutes, the game almost finished, and then it crashed. In NBA 2K21, my NBA is noticeably faster at simming than my league on last-gen 2Ks, but in Madden, simming through franchise mode or even loading a game takes just as long as before. The entire interface of the game is identical. The main menu, the game modes, the soundtrack, it's the exact same game. The only differences you'll find are when you are actually playing. Let's talk about those. I remember seeing EA talk a lot about presentation. Sidelines were supposedly improved, crowds were improved, graphics were improved, and next-gen stats were the big new feature. Well, let's just say these changes are quite small. Sidelines now have real players, yes. You will see a fully rendered Jabril Peppers on the Giants sideline, for example. Some players, however, are not fully rendered still. It's now a mix between actual sideline players and those lame generic body types. And they all still have those cringy animations. At least everyone has their last name on their jersey, but dang, you'd think on these next-gen consoles we'd finally be able to have legit sidelines, like the ones in All Pro Football 2K8, a game from 2007 that ran on the PS3 and Xbox 360. Crowds look about the same in-game, but after big plays it'll cut to a separately rendered, zoomed-in version of the crowd, which looks awful. You'll quickly notice they have a few templates and continuously show the same ones over and over after a few games. You'll notice every team has the exact same fans. It's funny because on the PS2 you could create a fan, and that fan would show up in these cutscenes only for his team and be truly unique. Here, you'll see the same exact men and women copy and pasted throughout the crowd and the exact same scenes copy and pasted for each team. Referees are still not in the game. So I guess the next-gen consoles aren't capable of having refs on the field, yet Madden on the Sega Genesis had refs. Presentation is better, as pregame intros are kind of cool I guess, but there's still no coin toss. It shows players coming out of the tunnel, some sweeping stadium shots, and then it goes straight to the kickoff. When games like 2K have pregame warm-ups, the national anthem, pregame interviews, and more, Madden's pregame presentation continues to look bad despite being a slight improvement. Rain and snow are now improved, although snow still looks laughably bad. Rain is actually decent, as raindrops form on players' helmets and soak into their jerseys, but compared to rain in non-sports games that aren't even next-gen, like Red Dead Redemption 2 for example, this really isn't impressive at all, it's just better than it was before. Next-gen stats are the big new thing, as I mentioned previously. Now, after a big play, you'll see detailed stats on what happened, player top speeds, yards after a catch, stuff like that as you can see on the screen here. Are these stats real or just randomized? Who knows? It's kind of cool, but being the major change for next gen is kind of a big disappointment. I don't see how this couldn't have been done on last gen hardware. The only part of this game that truly changed was gameplay. Now, animations are still exactly the same, so tackles look identical to the way they always have, you still get that cringy pop sound when a player is hit, and there's no tackling momentum. You run into a tiny corner and you get stopped like you hit a brick wall, so that's the same. However, player movement has changed, and in my opinion for the better. Players are much slower and a change of direction is much harder. No longer can you swerve your stick to the end zone with a 70 overall player. Even with escape artists, quarterbacks are not overpowered and are much less cheesy. Only the fastest players like Tyreek Hill are truly fast. For some people, such as competitive players, this is bad news because stick skills is what made Madden lean more towards being a competitive online game, but for sim players this is more realistic. I'm sure the comp guys will complain and it'll get patched back to how it was before, however. This change to gameplay highlights another big issue with Madden. The game doesn't know what it wants to be. Is it a simulation game or an arcade game? Nearly every feature in game mode has been moving towards arcade and online competitive players recently, but here the game has chosen one area to be more sim. Who is EA trying to appease exactly? It seems like they want to give both sim and comp players what they want, but instead, they end up letting down both groups by not fully committing one way or the other. Despite the updated player movement, the gameplay really isn't much better. Yes, players move more realistically, but everything else is the same. Receivers will catch the ball only to drop it as they get lightly hit. Everything is super animation dependent. And if you have not enjoyed Madden on the Frostbite engine, you will not enjoy this next gen version of the game. The one change I really do like, and I probably should have put this at the beginning with the positives, but oh well, is the controller vibration. On the PS5, you hear the play clock tick and the quarterback's hard count through the controller's speaker. The triggers become harder to push down when sprinting with a fatigued player, and the vibration is awesome. You can even feel the offensive lineman blocking. It's kind of funny though that my favorite part of this game is the controller vibration. Play selection has been reworked and feels a lot more tedious, but it might just take some getting used to. It takes up a lot more screen real estate now as well. Beyond what I just mentioned, nothing else has changed. You really are not missing much if you own any Madden on previous gen consoles from the last few years. Franchise mode is untouched, down to the menus. The entire game is basically untouched outside of playing games. It feels like a small patch for Madden 21, not a true next-gen upgrade or experience. Remember, as I touched on in my NBA 2K21 next-gen review, 2K added an entire city, My NBA franchise mode, a WNBA career mode, a WNBA franchise mode, a brand new broadcast team, G League games, and more, while also significantly speeding up loading times. Compared to 2K, Madden's next-gen upgrade is a huge letdown. This is smaller than the change from Madden 20 to 21 on last-gen consoles. So, why was this delayed until December? What is EA actually doing in their offices? Why did this take so long? It doesn't even feel optimized. Frame rate issues are everywhere. If you're wondering about specific game modes like the yard or face of the franchise, go check out my last-gen review of the game because nothing changed. This is a simple patch for Madden 21 that tweaks player movement, adds next-gen stats, and adds some slight graphical improvements. I am sure this could have ran on the PS4, as sidelines still don't have fully rendered players, refs aren't on the field, game modes are all unchanged, and the improved graphics really aren't anything impressive. So this next-gen version of Madden still suffers from all the same issues as last gen. The shallowest franchise mode out of every other sports game on the market, animation-dependent gameplay that ruins the fun, lackluster presentation, and really no reason to continue playing after a few hours. If this wasn't the exclusive simulation NFL game, I don't think anyone would even care about it or even play it. I give this next-gen version of Madden 21 a 3.5 out of 10. It is a slight improvement from the last-gen version, with a heavy emphasis on the word slight. While the changes it made weren't bad, they barely changed anything, And because the game base is so incredibly shallow and flawed, there's really nothing here to be excited about. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to my channel. You can always unsubscribe down the road if you don't like my future uploads. And while you're here, check out this video on Madden 04, or check out whatever YouTube recommends you watch below.